Okay, that's looking pretty stable. So we'll get going. So yes, hello and welcome for those who have joined just to another webinar. So far this year, you've had the opportunity to speak to myself and Daniela in some webinars aiming to help you get more out of your prospect CRM. They're all available online still. They're on our YouTube channel if you want to go and have a look at them. We've recently conducted webinars for features like goals and analytics, and new users 101 aimed at getting new staff or refreshing existing staff and just getting them on the ground running when they're using the CRM. Still upcoming, we have another webinar for 20 quick tips, which will be a nice sort of across the board session, just things we think might help, and then also a roundup of the series 2 as well. We're actually in the process of planning series 3, so any suggestions, please comment down below or pop a question in for anything you'd like to see, anything we haven't covered, or if we have covered it, we can send you a link and you can watch that as well. We also have Jess on the call with us today, so we have some questions that have already been submitted. So as always, we'll aim to do a Q&A at the end of the session. Jess can keep an eye on them as they come in, just make sure I don't miss any. And then just me then, quick bit about myself. For those who I've not had the pleasure of speaking to before, my name is Alex. I've been with Prospect for coming up to 6 years now, 2 of which have been with the Access Group. So hopefully I've got enough experience for today's topic. So for today's session, then we're going to be looking at the implementation of Prospect, what tools we have that are not only designed to get the best out of your prospect, but also to use the CRM's features to drive the growth of your organization. Prospect as a tool is designed for a whole array of purposes, from that classic sort of CRM customer relationship management of notes and contacts and numbers and sort of storing that key contact information, all the way to in-depth analysis of your entire customer base or products, or sort of learning across your business how you're growing as well. So we have 30 minutes-ish for this webinar. Obviously, we can overrun that and we'll leave a bit of time for Q&A as well. So key takeaways from today's session then, we're going to be looking at successfully implementing a CRM system and what tools we have on offer to help you make a success of the CRM in your business. And we're going to look at how we can sort of do some customization work on the interface, configure those drop downs, maybe favorite some reports, so everyone sort of gets a similar experience, but each sort of individualized to your own business as well. Learn how to sort of get the information you're looking for. Introduction to the growth formula and the growth playbook as well. So the growth playbook was created to aid our customers in maximizing business growth. Stages of the growth formula directly linked to features and practices within Prospect CRM, and really highlights why Prospect is the best solution for sort of B2B wholesalers. And lastly, sort of reviewing some key settings as well. So that essential CRM configurations are going to be looking at some key settings, things that I think are important. They'll have a huge impact on sort of the data you see, the functionality you have access to, show you the location of some of these, and sort of do a little bit of a dive onto how to configure some of them as well. So before we get there, just firstly, what do we actually mean by successful implementation? So successfully implementing a CRM system refers to effectively deploying and integrating a CRM, obviously in this case, Prospect. There are some key steps here. I've narrowed it down to 5. You can probably really build on that, and I'm sure I'd have an argument with onboarding over the steps I've chosen. But the first of which are importing sort of key data through the ERP integrations. Almost all of our customers do this and take advantage of this feature as early as their free trial. That's sort of really one of the backbones of Prospect, and where we get the data and how we do the analysis on that. So really great to see. I think 99% of us use that. Configuring the CRM system to meet your specific needs, providing comprehensive training to your users, striving towards that operational excellence. So there are many ways of defining that, but depending on your organizational goals, I personally believe it's the sort of pursuit of improvement and efficiency, in this case within our CRM, essentially getting as much out of Prospect as you can. And then lastly, setting next goals, and we'll cover that sort of in a bit more towards the end. But in an ever-changing environment, it's quite important to set those goals within the CRM to learn how you can get the best as you go. So like I said, that's a very short list, and you can break that down further, but we're going to focus on specifically those last 4 points today. Many, if not all listeners would have had a flight path, which is part of our onboarding team. formally an onboarding experience where you had a bronze or silver pack for those customers who have been here a while. And these flight paths aim to cover most of these items in depth, depending on the level of the path you've chosen. But I'd argue that implementing a CRM, like most software, never really ends. We are always releasing new features. Your markets are ever changing. Your teams will grow. So it's important to learn how Prospect can help you continuously grow your business and how you can help Prospect stay up to date as well. So that's it for the PowerPoint side of things for now. No one likes to stay in PowerPoint all afternoon. So we're going to go across to our demo system. So I say it every time, I'm going to say it again. This is our, that's my Jam demo system. To set the scene here a little bit, it's a fictional company that sells jam jars and jam making equipment and ingredients and stuff like that, that I noticed had a very, very good month in April with 2.39 million. But yes, fictional company, just to set the scene, wholesaler selling jam stuff. And we're going to use this profile today. Tips for configuring and customizing your CRM. We're going to look at some of those key settings, how to get or where to find that sort of training material, and look at that growth playbook as well. So we're going to start with configuring and customizing your CRM. So for each of you, there are going to be items specific to your organization, perhaps data you need to record that we don't have a field for. Maybe it's something industry specific or something like that. And we have options where you can either change an existing field or add a new one. So I'm just going to cover how you can make those customizations to begin with. So I'm going to navigate over to one of our companies. And we're going to look at changing an existing field to get us started. So as you can see, we've got the name of the company, some phone number information, Spot's website, a summary of what the company is, activity, a few other bits and pieces. We've also got this industry field up here, which is a drop down. Now, obviously, this is a jam selling company. So the industries we're selling to are bars, cafes, factories, etc. You might want to add more to this or take some of these out. So you have the option to configure here. This takes you through to a list within the settings page. And you can use this to obviously delete the ones you don't want anymore, or more importantly, add some new ones. If I go to this little plus icon in the top right-hand corner, like a plus, and we might say a farm shop, something like that. So hit create on there, nice and easy. Cross out of that one. And then as we go into that industry again, we can say that Very, Very Limited is actually a farm shop, as per the new option that we've just renamed or added. You can repurpose these fields as well. So if you didn't want this to be industry, you can customize this field and actually rename it. So we've got this categorization section just here. There's our industry. If you click this little spanner, you can actually type over the top of it or make it a required field where if you make a new company, this field has to be filled out. It can never be blank. Instead of renaming things, though, you can actually just add a new field entirely. So if I wanted to add a new custom drop down, so if we go back to this page here, we've got our categorization, we've got our new industry, our new farm shop industry. You might want to add a new drop down for something like a RAG status, which is stands for red, amber, green. A pretty typical way of sort of categorizing customers on being happy, not happy, or somewhere in between. So just as an example, if I go back up to customize, go to any one of these sections, or you can add a new group, or you can add a new page, which we'll cover in just a second. If I was to go to categorization, add a field, you can add any existing field. So we've got show more. As you scroll down, you might want to add different bits of information to different places, or like I said, you can add a new page and have an entire page dedicated to notes or pricing information or something like that. It's really quite flexible. If I wanted to add a brand new field, you're looking at custom fields down here. I can add a new custom field. You've got a sort of a multiple choice here. We're going to stick with drop down, but obviously you've got dates and might be a site visit when you last saw them. You can add a date in for that, text fields, etc. But if I add a drop down and rename one of these to RAG or something like that, I can configure that to be give it a short list. Red, amber, green. There you go. So we've got our short list now. If I close out of that, we've got our new rag status we've just created. Press OK, and I've just added that down here. If I go to preview now, obviously you can drag this around and move it to somewhere else. We now have a new drop down. We've just added it in here. I can use this one as green or something like that. So the scenario of a rag status might not be relevant, but you get the idea that you can add drop downs or other bits and pieces that you might need to record data specific to you guys. We did briefly touch on sort of customizing pages as well. I go back to here. You can add a new page or add a new group. Click of a button, just call the page, I don't know, senior account or something. We've now got a whole other page. You can add a group in here that might have some customer information. And then within that customer information page, you can then start adding those fields again. So maybe you want the company name, who last updated it, maybe the last active engagement's a good field to have as well. If I give you a bit of a preview on that, we've got a brand new page called senior accounts, and then we've got this new customer info little sort of grid we've made with the company name, who last changed this record, and the last active engagement as well. So again, what I've chosen might be completely irrelevant, but you get the idea. You can make a new page and sort of capture information specifically on that page if you wanted to. Okay, that covers some of the sort of customization. Obviously, you can remove things as well. Some customers do find this a bit sort of too overwhelming. If they want to get rid of some of these fields, you're welcome to do so. Generally speaking, most customers leave those and just add more to them and more specific things. The next stage we're going to focus on is sort of looking at some of these settings as well. So I'm going to go to this left-hand side, settings, and then system settings. Settings is where we can spend a bit of time on. There are quite a few settings in here. I've picked sort of a handful or a short list that I think are quite important to consider, starting with some for the dashboards, a couple of features that are hidden, and then just a few interface things as well, which I think are just useful to know about. So if I start with some of those for the dashboard, I've got the names for them. So I'm going to search just to save us a bit of time. But all the settings are obviously categorized down here. So you've got sales and general and such like that. So I'm going to start off by looking at use orders or invoiced revenue on the dashboard. So the dashboard, if for those who don't know, the account manager dashboard, sales manager, sales rep, etc. like that. If I start on, so we've got the account manager dashboard here. This is currently looking at orders. So this is just looking at orders that have gone through. It is not considering any invoices or not looking at invoices specifically. Depending on how you guys work, invoiced might be the option for you, where instead of this being there's been £2.41 million worth of orders, you can change this setting. So use orders or invoice revenue. So if I change that to invoices, that will update, and this figure will change from the 2.41 million ordered maybe down to 200,000 because that's all that's been invoiced so far this month. So many customers prefer to look at invoice. They think it's cleaner because just because an order's gone through doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go through all the way. It might sort of get cancelled or something. So you do have that option to change that setting if you'd like. One setting on the back of that is the financial year as well. Spell. Name that. So financial year. So by default, this is, I believe, set to January to December financial year. Naturally, that doesn't align with many businesses as well. So we've got the option to set the first month of the financial year in the CRM profile based on this drop down here. So this profile is set to April, so in line with the sort of tax year. That will then go and update this report. So the 12-month order analysis and things like this, and anywhere where there's a year-on-year comparison. So again, going to Mary Berry, this customer profile from earlier on, the at a glance here has over the last 365 days and financial year to date, bits and pieces like that. So that will all sort of change and align with your financial year once you change that setting. Another setting that's quite important for those dashboards, I think, and a probably quite underutilized feature. If I go back to that dashboard here, we've got this needs engagement tile. And what this does is shows you any customers who you haven't contacted in a certain amount of time. And that is defined, or contact is defined by information on the notepad, which consists of if they've had an order can be taken into consideration, if you have emailed them, if I've had a phone call, spoken to someone there. You can actually change this drop down, and I can say that a general note is not an engagement, but if I've I don't know, sent an email or had a call or something like that, customer meeting, there you go, that does count as an active engagement. So the idea, that's the sort of the basis of that. The idea is that that list on our dashboard should almost be always empty, as it were. So there shouldn't be anyone with our current configuration who has not been spoken to every month. And like I said, I think that's quite underutilized, because once it's configured, maybe a month is a bit too much for some of you guys. It certainly is for many customers I can think of. Maybe you need to change that and sort of make it 9 months or something like that. So if I go into those settings, the needs engagement periods, how many days do you want to wait before a non-contacted company is marked as needs engagement? Instead of 30, I can change that to 120 or something. And then also analyze orders as active engagement is another one I wanted to look at. So if the customer is ordering, you don't feel like you need to engage with them, you don't feel like you need to chase them or reach out or anything like that, then you can enable this feature. So what we've done now is this list on our dashboard, when this next updates, this will sort of drastically change now. So instead of it being customers we haven't spoken to in the last 20 or 30 something days, it now will be fine with those. They won't show up. It's going to start showing us customers that haven't ordered in the last 4 months and who we've not spoken to in the last 4 months. So once that's configured from your sales reps perspective, that can be a really, really useful tool just to make sure you're staying engaged with your portfolio. Really useful if you're an account manager or you have your own sort of allocated territory, anywhere where you've got your own list of customers. It could be a really, really useful tool. This dashboard can actually be then filtered from everyone to you specifically, and I can say these are my customers now that I need to engage with. So some really useful settings there. Moving away from the dashboard, there are a couple of other settings just around some features that sort of remain a little bit hidden. So I wanted to just cover those as well. We've got one of them, which is the magic matrix. So the magic matrix is a tool which we've done an entire webinar on. If anyone's interested, again, throw a question down there and we'll send you a link to that. It is this tool just here. And what this does is basically measure sort of customer penetration, where it says these customers have bought some of these items, but it has not bought anything out of this item here. So it sort of gives you an overview of your whole customers, what products they're buying from your product groups. And again, there's a sort of whole webinar on that. But for anyone who's never seen this before and maybe don't have a magic matrix option, that is because there is a setting that sort of hides it away. So it's worth just knowing that that exists. The other one then is goals. So again, another setting. This is quite a new one. It's been preview still. You enable this feature, and what it does, it's actually sitting in settings at the moment. It's another feature that allows you to set goals based on revenue for your customer or for your account management team. So if I say create a goal there, I can have a sales goal for my account manager for James, and I can actually set this then to say James needs to be on a target of 1,000 this month, and then go through and set it to 2,000 in February, something like that. So again, just another little useful tool, nice and simple one. Get to look at the performance as well in a nice grid and see sort of how they're doing against their target. But more importantly, many people might have never known that it feature existed just because it might have been hidden behind the settings. So definitely go have a look and see if there's anything you can make use out of. So back to settings then, there's a couple more that I wanted to run through. One that I get asked quite a bit about is sort of managing where customer or where your users can create certain things, whether you have created a quote that doesn't have a contact or an opportunity or something like that, or a problem that doesn't have a contact. Anywhere where you sort of find that sort of scenario and you want your staff or your teams to sort of follow a structure, you can actually change where you can make records from. We have a record creation settings. This one's a bit busy, but basically what it means is if I have company and company group, you can change these to say, don't show company globally, so you have to go to a company group first. And show on entity means you can make a company from under a company group. So again, we have a whole article on this one, but and obviously we'll always be willing to help out. But if you don't want your customers to be able to, or so your users to be able to make a quote without there being a contact, then this is where you go. You can configure this so the only way to make a quote is by going to a contact first. So there's a couple of options there which might be useful, especially if you're having that kind of problem where, again, some have contacts, some don't. Another setting, which is a much easier one, is just the account manager at either company group or company level. So this depends largely on how you sort of manage your customers. But if you're managing your company group level, it basically means you have an account manager that looks after all of those customers down below. So you might look at, I know examples with John Lewis or something. So if I was the account manager of John Lewis, then it doesn't matter if it's John Lewis, High Wycombe or Cardiff or London. I manage all of those branches. But if I was to change this to company level, then it means I might look after 2 of those, where James might look after 4 John Lewis and Adila might look after another 2 or something like that. And maybe that's regional. It's really up to you, but just a nice setting to say if you have got that scenario where James does look after all of the John Lewis branches, but he has to set it on each one, it might be worth even changing this to company group level. Obviously, always read through the settings first. There is a bit of a sort of a warning on this one, just to let you know what happens when you make that change. Another nice easy one is just the recycling bin. So for any records that are deleted, there's a recycling bin. Many people don't know that. It's a nice easy one. Anything you delete normally ends up in here and administrators can restore it. Got another one for automatically populate delivery address on quotes. So when you make a quote, we can either leave it blank, in which case you enter an address manually each time or choose some of the options, or you can just automatically choose where this is populated from. Our profile is set to the sales ledger delivery address. You might want that to be a company address or contact address. Again, whatever scenario suits you, just saves you a bit of time on choosing those addresses when quoting. Another one that might be useful is we've got 2 more, just the ones I've highlighted. So default email subscription flag. I don't know the sort of ins and outs of international approach to email marketing, but I know in the UK it's sort of opt-in, not opt-out. So by default, that should probably quite often be set to unsubscribe. I'll leave that to the marketing experts to decide on that. But you can choose when you add a new contact, should they by default be set to unsubscribe for email marketing or set to subscribe. There is another setting for physical mail as well, but I imagine most of us these days are doing email marketing over sort of physical leaflets or anything like that. And last one, and probably one of the most important, is activity notes and editing. So what this means is which users can configure and edit notes. So this is currently enabled for all users, meaning regardless of how old the note is, if I go into a system and scroll down that sort of activity timeline or something, I can go into one of these old notes and I can edit this and change it. So although this is from 2 months ago, spoken to someone, I can actually go and change that note. There's reasons for that, reasons against that. It's why it's a setting. So obviously you can change that as sort of whatever you like. If I go back to that setting, so it's currently enabled, you can change that. So users can only edit their own notes, admins can edit any, or users can only edit their own notes for 10 minutes after, and admins can edit any notes. So again, might just be that for a bit of security, you want people to only edit their own notes or something like that. Entirely up to you. A setting to consider. So they're sort of the settings that I've pointed out. For the best results on configuring Prospect, I would advise actually going through the system settings page as a whole, going through all of the general settings, going through sort of products and stock integration, stuff like that, see what you're missing out and see what you can configure. There was one more I actually wanted to show that I've somehow missed off, which was automated emails, specifically for order confirmation. So order confirmation email. Again, I wanted to bring this up just because I spoke to the customer the other day that was doing this manually after they sent out every order, and they're doing something like 200 orders a month, and that seemed incredibly inefficient. So this setting, just allows you to send order confirmation email template to the customer when an order is confirmed, and you get sort of two settings here: one for the CRM, which will be relevant for most of us, and another for the CMS, which is our sort of online ordering portal offering as well, where if a customer checks out for a basket, they'll get the same email template. These email templates then are just our sort of standard configured emails that you make, and you just choose one to use and send out to the customer once you've confirmed that quote. So yeah, if you are one of the companies out there that are manually doing that, please don't, and set this up instead. It will save you a ton of time. So yeah, that's it for settings. Then I won't spend too much or any more time in here really. As mentioned, I would highly recommend going through all of them. There are definitely some in here which I've not covered, which I sort of under about, that will be more useful to some of you and completely irrelevant to others, but definitely have a look. Once you've done, so we've sort of covered two elements then, so customizing the interface and customizing where you can create records, adding new fields, creating new fields, and also some of the settings that might be useful. Once you've got your prospect configured, whether this was as early as sort of doing your flight pass and such, or as much later as you're reconfiguring prospect. Apologies. Getting a phone call. I'm going to turn that off. That's my mistake. Yes, apologies. So yes, once you've done this and you've got all your sort of settings configured, you obviously need to train your staff and teach them how to use the system you've created. And there are a few options for training. There's sort of a ton we've got. The first of which is the webinar series. So you're on one right now. We run these every 2 weeks, all recorded on YouTube and also the registration page. And these webinars aim to take a specific topic and delve into sort of configuring and using these features. One specific webinar is called New Users 101, designed for just that, aiming to get those sort of brand new users up and running as soon as possible. We also then have the Academy, which is all located up in this question mark in the top right hand corner. We have the Academy and the documentation as well. So I'll open those up. We also have What's New, and there's always a notification up here. If you ever sort of look in someone's profile, you'll see the notification as we release them. See what's new, and this is just full of everything we've released. So if you like the idea of anything we've released recently, so we've just released new unleashed two-way syncing, anything in there that you'd like the look of, obviously we can help with, but generally speaking, these sort of teach you how to go and use those features. Again, re-implementing new features and things that you can take advantage of within your organization as well. Just going back to sort of that training element, so CRM Academy and documentation. The Academy, if you're a user, click on sort of who you are. You get to go through the beginning level stuff, going through sort of getting started, how you access prospect, all the way to the advanced stuff of creating those custom fields and bits and pieces as well. So a bit of an academy to just sit new users in front of. And then the documents portal as well, where you can actually search for a keyword like quote, and it will find those articles for you, where I can learn how to confirm a quote. There's normally screenshots, videos in here, just teaching you how to do that. We also have our sort of in-app chat as well. So within Prospect, you'll normally find it down here on the bottom right. It's also in this question mark with the sort of chat with us option. If I click that open, we have an AI agent that's a very intelligent tool that can help you sort of get to where you need to be and find your articles and help with locating the settings you need to go and find. But ultimately, behind that is our team of sort of prospect experts as well, who are more than happy to help out with these kind of things. Whether you're a user or you're trying to sort of configure the system, that's all available to help. And lastly, obviously, we do have some sessions that we can do for remote training and such like that. If that was the route you wanted to go down as well, if you wanted a sort of a more one-to-one experience and getting the best out of that time is highly advised as well. So recapping so far then, so we've configured the prospect a little bit, configured settings, shown you how to then teach your staff, whether they're new or existing, teach your staff how to use prospect. Last stage of what I really wanted to cover today is the growth playbook. This is a tool that we've made specifically for helping organizations like yours. So this not only helps with sort of identification and implementation of features, but also goes with sort of makes a simple blueprint for sales growth within B2B product businesses, both attracting more customers and maximizing that customer lifetime value. You've probably come across this in the past or something similar. This growth model is a visual representation of how we can grow a business. So we have this attract, sell, close, and onboard, which we refer to as more customers or the funnel. And then higher customer lifetime value being this sort of section at the bottom here, this flywheel, where customers are obviously invited to spend more, where you get more out of that relationship you've got. So where this loops back around to implementation and sort of today's topic for the webinar is more this grid down here. So some of you might be familiar, some of you have never seen this before, and that's absolutely fine as well. This again is broken down into that sort of funnel and flywheel, so more customers and then customer lifetime value, and shows you what features you can use so you can hit these 7 growth strategies of attract, sell, close, onboard, order value, and order frequency and retention. So broken down from the bottom row being low investment, this shows quicker wins that can help you address shortcomings, and ones at the top require a little bit more planning, but ultimately have sort of yield big results as well. So if we focus on sort of attract for a minute, just as a point of study, the first sort of easiest thing to do is to start logging inquiries. This is the first step when it comes to attracting more business. It's a nice, easy, requires very little training, but allows you to see and track those inbound ideas. Once that's been reached, the next step is to use a web form. So that's the step here. And I can almost guarantee that some of us watching today don't use these at all, let alone use these at sort of the prospect functionality. We just won't use them at all. And it's a really easy feature to sort of use once it's set up. It does need a bit of configuration again, but it's actually really easy to use. What it does, if we've probably all seen them before, there'll be a contact us page on a website, something like that, or a pricing inquiry, something like that. Fill in a name, number, bits of information, hit confirm. That sends across an email, or in this case, an actual record into prospect for your team to work on. That then notifies your member of staff by email and says there's a new inquiry that's just come from your website. Go and have a look. They can then hopefully convert that into a useful opportunity that then leads to a customer. So a nice, easy way. There's sort of no additional charges for this or anything yet. So it's literally just put it on the website. If someone finds it and they hit inquire, you have just attracted a new point of business that you may have never secured otherwise. So nice, easy way of getting that sorted out. We then sort of continue to expand on this using RFM to learn more about your customers and tailor how to run your business and how to sort of target that. So using that RFM is sort of this dashboard again. If you find that your champions and loyal customers are typically of a certain industry, that could yield enough results to sort of maybe pivot, maybe start targeting those customers more. If you're finding your customers are sort of a specific industry, that's quite an important result. And it could also be the other point of view is if we're doing really well in this industry, how can we attract other industries as well? So just breaking down that data. And this continues down, going into sort of importing target lists if you can get hold of that data, You can then email to them, try and sell your business to them as we go up the next step using sort of automated and drip campaigns. This whole board here is dedicated to features in Prospect that can help you grow. Just coming back to that flywheel again, this is sort of the more important section in a way, just because this is retention. I'm of the opinion, I've hopefully aligned with many of you, that it's actually a lot easier to retain customers than it is attract new ones. Obviously, churn is natural and you're always going to lose customers, which is why attracting new business is so important. But if you can keep hold of your customers for longer, build that rapport, you'll absolutely get a higher lifetime value out of those customers through higher sales, sort of increased order frequencies and such like that. And when it comes to goal setting, then I would advise all of you to have a look at this sort of growth playbook, work out where in here we're sort of not necessarily faltering, but where you're weak on, where you're strong on, and learn of these features. What can you be doing better? If you're, I don't know, let's say if your order value is quite low or decreasing, how can we help with this? Well, the Magic Matrix is a feature. Gave you a very, very quick insight into that. Again, we've got a webinar, but that is a whole feature you can use to help with order value that is just built into the system that you're already paying for. And then that goes up all the way to doing highly sort of targeted campaigns based on that RFM grid again, and focusing on customers who you know are spending good money, who are definitely willing to sort of spend more given the opportunity and if you can deliver to their needs. So go back to our PowerPoint. So slightly longer than half an hour. I do apologize. That's about 40 minutes. But just to summarize, then we've covered sort of that successful implementation through using settings, customize the interface, and then introducing that growth playbook, as well as those sort of areas that you can move towards implementing as well. And ultimately, if you are in the position where that entire grid has been implemented, there'll be new features coming on top always. But actually those features alone are going to get you towards that sort of operational excellence as well. Just to give you a bit of an insight into the future, hopefully near future, we'll be releasing what is essentially an interactive test that will invite you all to go through, and that will actually give you a score in those areas or some of those areas, help you identify areas that can be improved, whether that is email marketing or quoting or something like that. And not only will it identify, it'll also sort of give you the steps you need to take to get there as well. So that's it for the webinar side of things. I can see a couple of questions have already come through, so I'll start going into those as well. If anyone has any questions, then just, yeah, by all means, give me send them in now or come away with this. That's absolutely fine as well. So a couple of us have asked for the Magic Matrix webinar. That's absolutely no problem at all. I will make a note to send that across. Okay. Is it possible to have different confirmation templates based on the product sold? We have a few different templates. That's a really good idea. I don't think there is just yet. I can definitely imagine a feature for it though, whether it be product based or customer based. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'll speak to the product team, so I think it can be quite interesting on how we can do it. I'm not too sure if it would work on products. Just again, looking at the system as a whole, some of our customers have thousands of products or tens of thousands of products, and having a different template for each of those products might be a bit of a challenge, or even groups of those products. But we could definitely look at something through customer type or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely room for improvement there, I'm sure. And another question: Will this recording be on your YouTube channel? Yes, probably tomorrow, if not day after. Absolutely. A couple more questions. Is the flight path available for anyone? So yes, although flight paths are typically for new customers, we've definitely taken advantage of these for sort of existing customers looking to get more out of their CRM again. So that gives you a dedicated consultant for a certain amount of hours who can run through basically everything I've done, but much more in depth, and go with you with those options on that journey as well. So yes, absolutely, flight paths are available.
Just to interject there, Alex, sorry, for those that aren't aware, so flight paths are basically like onboarding or ways to get trained up on the system. So flight pass is just a term that Access use, but it's effectively onboarding, soft onboarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jess. And then, do settings need to be set for each user? So the settings we've covered today do not. So we've covered these sort of system settings down here. They are just set across the whole system. They can only be set by administrators. There are some personal settings here, which obviously personal, they're for each user. Whether you go into settings, there's a few things in here where you decide how many rows you want to see on your page, what sort of dates you want to see, what notifications you want coming through. So everything we've done today are all system settings, so just for everyone, but there are some personal ones should you choose to use those as well. Let's have a look at this. Can I integrate the ERP data again from Sin7 to Prospect? Set it up over a year. How can I ensure the customer details are in Sin7 are quickly as possible? That's quite an in-depth question, Alex. Absolutely something we can help with. I will reach out to you after this meeting. If it's still connected, the good news is if you're still connected to Sin7, it will have been running in the background this entire time. So the integration is basically endless. It just continues to run. So hopefully that's the case. If not, we will definitely work out how we can get that done for you. Jot that down as well.
Alex will take that question away to Alex on the call. So we will go to differently, Alex. Thank you.
And then we had, I think, one more question there. Is there an option to have access to the system, but with restricted access for external sales team? There is some restrictions we can give in terms of seeing things like cost price and some sort of key data, but there's not many restrictions we can have by default. It needs a bit of configuration. It largely depends on what you're trying to sort of restrict for. So you can actually make, one thing I didn't really cover was dictionaries, where each of those users can be assigned a dictionary, and what that means is they get to see a different set of fields. So an example might be a manager's dictionary where I get to see everything, but a restricted dictionary where I can't see the accounts information or discount information or something like that. So you could, in theory, allocate some kind of restricted dictionary to these customers and show them slightly different information to these users. Sorry, I don't think that changes anything for the price of the users. It's still largely the same same cost, but you can restrict what they see. So yeah, there are some options there as well. And I think I'm not seeing any more questions. I'll give everyone another couple of seconds. But I think that's us done. My bad. Yeah, so no more questions coming through. Just a sort of polite reminder that we've got more webinars coming up, another one in sort of 2 weeks' time or so. You can register for them here. And any suggestions you guys have got for webinars you'd like to cover, just throw them our way. We're always interested in getting the best content we can out to you guys. But that's
that is actually a good call, that, Alex, because we are planning, in the middle of planning of the next series. So on that webinars page that Alex just the link up to, there's a box in there to submit any kind of topic ideas. So definitely submit those. They come straight through to our marketing team. They can make sure they're built into the next series.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, any suggestions, please pass them across. Take care all. And anyone who submitted a question, I will get back. Thank you very much.
Thanks, bye.